Hey kid, you ever heard of a game called Final Fantasy XIV? Better known around these parts as
the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV with an expanded free trial which you can play through the entirety of a run.
Okay, we get it. God, hate that guy. Okay, look, all facts.
no cap.
I've played a lot of these. I've tried to play a lot of these. They never really stick. But this, now this, is the fucking shit. So I have a running problem with RPGs where I'm interested in a title or premise. I get through the introduction to the world, go through the tutorial, play just enough so that the world opens up to you with new lands, new quests, new equipment or abilities, and never launch that game again. The main problem is that there is so much to do in a world where I don't care enough to do any of it. I just don't care enough about the world,
The story, the villains, the hero.
It usually involves me mashing the skip button harder than a Mario Party minigame. But Final Fantasy XIV was different for me in ways that weren't totally clear at first, but amidst all the things that I love about this game, there were three main factors that made it really stick with me compared to other MMOs or other RPGs. Those being the timeless art direction, player freedom and choice, and the dedication to an independent narrative. Now let's start with that absolute massive dumper of a statement.
I like 'em chunky.
The independent narrative. And look, for the weebs out there, I just wrapped up the main Realm Reborn story. I know it gets way better. I know that Heaven's Ward is where it really clicked for me. I ain't there yet, so I ain't talking about fucking dragons or whatever happens to that expansion. I have a subreddit for that.
Hey, yo!
Every MMO has their slow start, and Final Fantasy XIV is no exception. Not too long after the character creation and intro, it's time to go pub stomp some fucking ladybugs and mushrooms. And then run errands for people. But these small D's work towards bigger ones and it snowballs. Fetch quests get bigger, you start saving some dumb folk, yada yada, you've heard it before. As your character levels, you start getting a little more weight to what's going on. Introduced to main characters and find yourself in the middle of a bunch of pieces falling into place that give your character something dire that most MMOs don't usually really give your character: purpose. Where the story starts to really take a turn from other MMOs is when they start introducing the key characters that will be by your side for the rest of the main story in a very RPG team kind of fashion. You learn to like these characters, you learn more about their quirks and personalities. The big things come in small packages one, the bubbly I'd rather punch something for answers one, the one that everyone lewds, the heartthrob, the I don't know how my body should feel about this one, the holy fuck stop talking in Shakespearean I don't understand a single piece of your dialogue one, and the heartstrong leader. You also learn their roles in the group, and then you're set on a constant fucking roller coaster of things going on, sandwiched between all of these quieter moments that keep the weight and pacing of people who don't know how to fucking use their legs. No, I don't want to get you a bottle of prestige wine, you blind fucking potato. If you open yourself up and take your time with the story, you will genuinely find points where you feel sincere emotions. Whether it's rage at making bread in the face of coming danger, or whatever this guy does to my body. The world of Eorzea is vast and vibrantly full of different locales, enemies, citizens, and factions. In my opinion, Eorzea is so well utilized that it avoids the too common trap of open worlds feeling empty or filled with
Random bullshit, go!
The world leaves me wanting so much more in the best way possible. Even if I'm not actively playing in the game, I want to be participating in some element of Eorzea. I've straight up become a simp for this world. The closest any other game has come to this has been Persona 5, where I was so deeply invested in the characters and the main story, but the only fallout for that was that there wasn't much of a world to explore outside of the main route that you were set on. While Final Fantasy has so many small working pieces that make you 10 out of 10 really feel like you're in Eorzea. So this part, I know this isn't going to be as big of a factor for some of you, but art direction plays a huge part in what games grab my attention and can stand out. The Final Fantasy brand has an art style that has stuck around for a while now, and I've always been a fan of it, but the UI of this game is what truly won me over. I'm a genuine slut for UI to begin with, and after playing the trial years ago, I would wake up hot and bothered thinking about some of this UI. I love the dedication to really personalizing the class's unique ability UI. I want to play every class just to experience them. I've only really played Monk and Scholar a bit, but some of these have fully animated states that you can play through. I mean, hell, for the Black Mage, you practically have a functioning clock built into its UI. The Bard has a fully animated rotating music sheet. Astrologent might as well have a fucking animated dual disc. And Summoner's got a freaking Pokemon and team rotation system built into theirs. The UI team on this game are madmen, they're gods. It's crazy. I can't even imagine the depths of this design and programming from a game that is practically a decade old. I know I'm mostly gushing about UI here, but all of the art in this game truly embodies graphics may not hold up as tech progresses, but art direction is forever. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. Some of the characters, environments, and other assets where this becomes a bit dated, but my god, I wouldn't believe you if you just said that you didn't just stop and appreciate some of the monsters, environments, weapons, and my god, the action animations and particle effects, holy shit, they're abso-fucking-lutely gorgeous. I can't emphasize that enough, that for a decade-old game, this is unbelievable how good this game can look. And I love it because a part of the fantasy MMO is getting wrapped in being the hero and playing this really powerful character. And holy shit, do I feel like a god when I'm raining down 1,000 fists and comboing different strikes. I get to phase dash in, like if Goku and Saitama had a furry twink anime son and blast everyone to pieces. So a little while back I made this little video called Monster Hunter World, Reinventing Replayability. And there is no surprise that this game and Monster Hunter World have had a crossover, because this game deserves the exact same praises that MH does when it comes to player freedom and replayability. Where Monster Hunter and Final Fantasy XIV shine is where other MMOs fall so hard, not limiting your choice of how to play.
What the hell is this?
So many big MMOs I've played lock you into a specific character type from the get-go. Or hell, sometimes even worse, they gender and race lock them. I can't tell you how many times I've played an MMO where I think that I want to play Paladin or Mesmer or some other specific class, and you go through the first 20 level grind where you can actually start playing that character's kit, and you realize you don't like their kit.
Shit.
Now most MMOs would have you start a new character with their own armor, abilities, achievements, and worst of all, restarting the story. But in Final Fantasy, similar to MMO World, you can start as a class and then switch to another class on the same character. As someone who personally has to play every class before settling into one on an RPG or an MMO, absolutely loves this. There is no punishment for experimentation, and best of all, you can swap between them pretty seamlessly, just an icon or a weapon swap. You know what else this is perfect for? When you're playing healer and then you have to go solo and you don't have anyone to heal, and anytime you get into a multi-monster battle, you feel like this.
No.
What's that? No one to play with when you're running healer solo? Well, let me just slap on this big old sword and one Magica Girl transformation later, I'm Guts from Berserk. I have played almost every MMO solo, and it has almost always deterred or harmed my experience and relationship with the game. But Final Fantasy almost functions as a solo RPG game with optional big multiplayer moments. Is the game more fun with friends? You bet your new proud little Lalafell ass it is, but your enjoyment with the game doesn't hinge on playing with others. All the other parts of the game can be enjoyed by yourself. It is the perfect MMO for the lone player. And this, I find like can be a catch-22. It's where I feel like Final Fantasy may lose some of its attraction for some people, but it's one of the biggest reasons I love the game. You are never behind. It doesn't matter if you start 11 years after launch and you are 4 expansions behind everyone else, because the game moves at your speed. I've found the best way to play this game is slow and with intention. Half of the enjoyment from this game comes with the story, the characters, and the world. While most MMOs make you feel like you are left behind in the dust and need to XP boost your way to the latest content, Final Fantasy is the exact opposite. Even this late into the game's lifecycle, with its 4th expansion closing the main story, you will always find a full party queue on the very first dungeon in a reasonable amount of time. You aren't required to pay for a boost to get to the end of the game. It's there if you want it, but I honestly would not suggest it. You can absolutely play the game any way you want. You can skip all the dialogue if you want. I personally know people that if they were to play the game, they wouldn't think twice about skipping all the story. But my only word of advice is, take your time and give the story a chance. It is slow at first, but it grows. I know that the base story pales in comparison to the expansions, but it will act as a foundation for those more polished stories. And shit, from what I've heard, kinda need these details for Endwalker. Give yourself time to breathe and enjoy the immersing moments that Final Fantasy has to offer. I promise you will not regret it. I mean, shit, it means something when people are discussing the end of the current story, as I feel there's never going to be another game with a story as incredible as this one. And so many other tweets and reviews that say the same. With the astounding amount of people flocking to Final Fantasy, you can see a lot of praises for it as the perfect MMO. And while it really is a fantastic game, it isn't perfect. There are areas of this game that don't shine as much as the ones I mentioned. The combat can be pretty slow and straightforward in the beginning, and the lack of voice acting is very quickly noted, and it feels weird that some areas have it and others don't, and this can create a lot of reading that you will want to gloss over at points, especially in the valleys of the story. Please don't. But all of these get momentum, and you see them improve with time, and apparently a lot has been addressed or eradicated in the expansions to follow. I understand that this type of RPG or MMO isn't for everyone. Hell, for the longest time, I didn't think it would be for me either, but this game has marked a pivotal point in my life and saved me from the tireless cycle of disappointing releases and news within the industry. I would honestly rather pay the subscription fee for this game and all that it offers than to run the risk of saving up for buying bigger, independent releases that majority of the time flop or betray the consumer. I take solace that in a landscape filled with broken promises, empty launches, overpricing, and microtransaction madness, this game is a true diamond in the rough and a satisfying breath of fresh air in the gaming landscape. And all you need to do is sign up for a free trial today of the
Critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV with an expanded free trial which you can play through the entirety of a run.